Hello everybody. I'll be presenting our fish ladder scenario from the perspective of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. To begin with, the values of the Fish and Wildlife Service in this case would rotate around protecting migrating fish species and ensuring they have access to their historic breeding grounds through the fish ladder. We would also be very concerned with maintaining water quality in the river and protecting downstream habitat and environments for the fish as well as other species. Part of this would include ensuring the long-term sustainable functioning of any infrastructure that serves these purposes, including the fish ladder, particularly when we are financing the construction of those facilities. The position we would take is quite clear. The fish ladder repairs were not completed in a manner which provides long-term sustainable use of the facility. The crumbling concrete shows the contractor did not complete the construction of the fish ladder as described in the contract. As a result, the fish ladder does not serve its intended purpose to allow migrating fish species access to upstream waters and their breeding areas. In addition, the crumbling concrete causes a physical danger to migrating fish as large chunks of concrete break away and tumble down the ladder. Crumbling concrete also affects the pH of the water downstream, which may have negative effects on fish species as well as other species and other downstream flora and fauna and the aquatic habitat in general. However, we do recognize that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service representatives did accept the final work and were responsible for supervising the work during construction. We would like to discuss these issues with the contractor, Atlantic Concrete Company, or ACC, with the assistance of a mediator in order to find a resolution that we are both capable of accepting. Both sides, but particularly ACC, should be concerned about the reputational risk that would arise should the conflict drag out, not be resolved in mediation, and potentially go to court. Both parties, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and ACC, are partially to blame. ACC did not comply with contractual conditions to seal the bulkhead, creating a dry environment to pour the concrete. This is a contract violation and would not look very favorably upon them in a courtroom situation. USFWS, on the other side, did not provide adequate supervision of the construction process, nor did we issue a stop work order. However, neither of these are a violation of a signed contract. USFWS did provide a final project approval, essentially validating the work constructed by ACC. However, this does not necessarily allow for facilities to fall apart in the short term, which is the case in this fish ladder. So moving on, our desired outcome, above all, obviously concerns the fish and their migration. As fish migration has been hindered, physical dangers to fish have been created, and water chemistry has been altered by the poorly constructed fish passages. The service seeks immediate resolution to the issue, which means prompt reconstruction of the fish ladder, number one. We want to maintain costs to the service, which essentially is the U.S. taxpayer, at a minimum, but also understand the failure of the fish ladder could have been prevented with more diligent supervision and improved checks before final approval was granted. Nevertheless, the contractor shares much of the responsibility as well, as specific methods described in the contract were not followed, and their work did not produce sustainable, lasting infrastructure. We feel the $200,000 required to fix the fish ladder should be shared by both parties. Realistically, resolving the case outside of a courtroom setting or legal procedure would save both parties involved probably more than $100,000. in legal fees, and it could avoid a costly delay in completing the fish ladder to desired standards, which obviously both parties would like to avoid the additional costs, and Fish and Wildlife Service in particular would like to have the fish ladder running properly as soon as possible. Additionally, the U.S. Forest Service was responsible for project supervision, as I mentioned earlier, and signed off on the final work. It would be extremely difficult for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to win outright in court given those facts. However, ACC would also have a difficult time in court as they are known to have violated the contractual conditions, which actually led to the faulty concrete. ACC, I feel, would also face reputational risk issues, potential lawsuits from NGOs, or even the Fish and Wildlife Service for water contamination, water quality issues, and potential fines for impacts to the actual fish population or other threatened and endangered species. A lawsuit may also affect ACC's ability to win additional contracts with the Fish and Wildlife Service or other government agencies, as well as private sector contracts. So it is our opinion that mediation is the best strategy for both parties involved. The mediation approach, as a legal agreement was signed in the construction contract, an evaluated process could be followed. However, ACC could equally argue that with USFW or Forest Service sign off of the project, they completed their obligations under the contract. So that would be a difficult argument for either side. I would suspect at this stage in the conflict, the two groups have already had multiple discussions regarding the issue and how to resolve it without reaching an accord to this point. Therefore, I think a transformative approach may not be productive either, as it may just produce additional talk. Hence, I would propose a facilitative approach as the best approach by focusing on mutual responsibilities and a shared desire to reach a quick resolution by avoiding a costly court case. Number one, the two sides should be able to reach an agreement to share the cost of the repairs and agree on the timing of the construction works. Thank you for your time.